Hello, I'm Mr. Rooney, and today we're going to be talking about prepositions for place, specifically in, on, and at. So prepositions are words that indicate location or relation to an object. So for example, the puppy is inside the trash can, or the puppy is beside the phone. The words beside or in this case, show us where the dog is in relation to the objects around it. Today we're going to be focusing on the three prepositions at, in, and on. There are lots of other prepositions, though, to be aware of. You can see some of them here. In general, though, at is going to be used as the most specific preposition we'll talk about today. It's when you're at a specific point. So, for example, I'm at my desk right now. In is a little bit more broad of a category, and it's when you're inside an enclosed space. So I'm in my room right now. I'm also inside my house, so in my house. On is usually used to refer to when something is resting on top of something else, such as the ball in this example is on top of the box. But it could also be like Spider-Man. Spider-Man is on the wall there. Or you could hang a painting on the wall. Another example of on is I'm on my computer right now. I'm also on the internet. You might be watching this video on YouTube. So those are examples of being online. And that phrase, being online, means on the internet. And that actually comes from when, before the internet was created, that phrase was used online to refer to when a train was on the tracks. The conductors would say, "Train online," and that would be the command they'd give to over the telegraph. So this is a good time to talk about, just mention briefly that when we're talking about things online, on the internet, we're always going to use that word on. So if I'm on my phone, then it's on. If I listen to a song on Spotify, or I looked at something on Facebook, I might even ask you, are you on Instagram? And then ask to follow you. So back to talking about in, on, and at. In is the most general form of location of preposition. So usually we start with in. And then we move to become more specific when we say on, and then at is the most specific. So we're going to give another example of this, but maybe you live in England. So you say, I live in England, I live on Oxford Street, and I live at 734 Oxford Street. To give another example, you might tell someone, I live in Asia, if you live in Taiwan. But most people know enough about the world where you can say, I live in Taiwan. So, and then they might say like, oh, I know Taiwan. And so then you can give them more specific information, like I live in Kaohsiung Special Municipality, or I live in the city of Kaohsiung. But maybe they know the city of Kaohsiung, so you can tell them even more specifically, I live in district. So all these, we're still using the word in, because it's still pretty broad. But now we've gotten down to the Gushan district. It's not that big of an area. So they might ask, well, where in Gushan district? And you might say, well, I live on Meishu Street. Or if they know where Meishu Street is, then you could even tell them, I live at number 78 on Meishu East, 1st Street, 1st Road in Kaohsiung. So it's getting more and more specific, starting with in Taiwan, on that certain street, and then at a certain address. So here it is again. practice again with telling where Derriman is. So Derriman is in the sky. The sky is a big place. So we use the word in. Anything that's flying, we can say it's in the sky or in the air. How about here? Let's pretend Derriman is actually inside the house, behind the window. Derriman is in the house, but Derriman is on the second floor because Derriman is upstairs in the house. And Derriman is at the window. Derriman's looking out from behind the window, so Derriman is at the window. Prepositions are funny, and so it takes a lot of practice to get them right in every case. Derriman is on the balcony here. So on, again, on top of is the complete phrase. You could say Derriman is on top of the balcony. In this case, Derriman is in front of the door. So how do we say that? Well, another way to say in front of the door is at the door. If you hear a ring, you might say, oh, I heard someone's at the door, if you heard a knocking. So at the door is a phrase, to be at the door, just like being at the window. Over here now, Derriman is in the garden. So the garden is a big space, and Derriman is in there. In this next case, Derriman is at home. So this one's a little funny. We use at to say at home. So not only do you need to know the rule that usually we go in is the most broad, then at, but sometimes it gets a little more tricky than just that. So anywhere that Derriman is, if I called Derriman on the phone right now, Derriman would pick up and I'd ask, where are you, Derriman? Derriman would say, I am at home. So at is still pretty specific in that case. Yes, Derriman is in the garden, on the balcony, but in general, all these places we can refer to as being at home. So going back to being on the phone and on the computer. Am I actually standing on my phone? No, so it's another weird case. Whenever we're talking about things related to the internet and we're going to use, when we're online, we're using the preposition on. So on the computer, I'm on the computer right now. I'm on my phone if I pull it and open it up. Also, if I'm talking on the phone, Derriman, where are you? Derriman would say, hey, Mr. Rooney, I'm at home. No matter where he was when he picked up the call, in any of those spots, he'd say, I'm at home. Now, there's some tricky cases where you might be tempted to say, well, I'm going in England because England has a border around it. So when you go visit, you might want to say, I'm going in England, but that's not right. Also, you wouldn't say, have you ever been in America? A better way to say that, a correct way to say that is actually to use to, because whenever we have the verb to go, so went, gone, been, we always use to and not the preposition in. So I'm going to England. I went to France. Have you ever been to the United States? So prepositions for place and time are actually the same, oftentimes. So we've talked all about location today, in, on, and at, and how it gets more specific as we go down this triangle. It's actually the same for time. So for example, I was born in 1998. In 1998, that's a big period of time. It was a whole year, and I was born in that year. So I was born in 1998. I was born on August 9th. So on that one day, August 9th, and I was born at 12:45 p.m. So that's the most specific, the time period. So it's pretty similar, and we're lucky because that makes it a little easier to understand. To keep practicing prepositions, and I will include some practice links. You can find lots of free options for practicing online, and I will share some here. In conclusion, prepositions can be tough to learn, and it just requires practice. There are also just some funny ways in which noticing the prepositions can really be helpful in learning them. So, for example, you can get a shot in the shoulder when you go to get a vaccine or something, but you get tapped on the shoulder. And that makes sense because on is when someone taps you on the shoulder to get your attention, you're not, it's not going in your body, whereas a shot is going in. But for some reason, we say when you get hit in the face, it's not on the face. You get hit maybe on the nose, but the face in general, you get hit in the face. And so I'm including a link here for a very funny video where John Green, a famous author, talks about some of the funny ways prepositions are used. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson and keep practicing.